What's going on, guys? I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Let's go ahead and jump straight into it. I know we could probably talk about Pokemon's poor handling of distribution and how MJ Holdings is doing some shiesty stuff, trying to sell products secondhand for a lot more, but we're not going to get into that. We're also not going to talk about some other drama going on in the hobby between creators, because it is, honestly, it's just stupid. But people do love drama in this hobby. Anyways, I am going to just be a voice of reason today because I want to point out something that seems fairly obvious to me. Prices have retraced in a big way on a lot of stuff on the market lately. This hobby seems to be settling down right now. It seems like the dust is settling. I will say a lot of vintage cards are still continuing to rise, and I think it's obvious why that's happening. People are realizing that there's a huge supply and abundance of modern cards out there, and they're realizing that it's not really very rare. And there's nothing wrong with modern cards. I love modern cards. I am stacking up a ton of Salamence right now from Journey Together. We'll get into that in a second. But my point is, I appreciate modern. I've got a whole briefcase full of modern graded cards. I think they're beautiful. I think they're awesome. I think that they are a great budget-friendly option when you're trying to collect kind of grail cards that will be grail cards in the future, and just more or less modern, abundant alt arts, SIRs now. And that very well may change down the road regardless of how high pop they are, as we're seeing in that last boom we just had like a month ago. Cards that were extremely high pop, such as the Umbreon VMAX from Evolving Skies and so many other cards that I could mention, were astronomically priced. A lot of those cards have retraced a bit. They are coming back down to earth a little bit, but not a whole lot. Meanwhile, nobody really cares about Journey Together. I mean, seriously, nobody really cares about it. And it's kind of confusing because if you look at the sealed price for cases and booster boxes, that price really isn't coming down much. So, you know, I was having this conversation with a couple of my friends yesterday that I just don't feel like buying into sealed product is the move anymore. It has been a topic beaten to death. Everyone's talked about sealed investing and buy this now and you better get in on this product before it explodes. Sealed investing really, to me, is not a big money maker, right? Like if you're really trying to make money in this hobby, I don't think that sealed investing is the move. I think a lot of us got lucky. I think a lot of products that they're not reprinting are worth a lot more now. I've mentioned Evolving Skies a bajillion times on this channel, right? But it's an outlier. There aren't a lot of sets that are performing that well. You know, Fusion Strike is another one of them. The other thing is it worth it to even buy that product, especially if you ever plan to open anything? For people that are new to the channel, right? This is not for all of you OGs. You guys know that most of the time when you're opening product, you're gonna take a loss. You're gonna take an L. It's a huge risk. But especially if you're thinking you're better off maybe chasing some of these alt arts that are coming down a little bit in price, trust me, you're better off just buying a single that is coming down and retracing a little bit on the market than you are trying to open these products. But anyways, I don't think sealed is super sustainable at this point because I think just everybody's jacking up prices. Meanwhile, everybody who's finding product and opening it, the singles are crashing for Journey Together. So that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about those singles that are crashing that maybe you should have an eye on, right? This is not a get it before, you know, it's too late type of video. This is what I'm doing, guys, and I'm making it plain and simple that these cards are fucking awesome, y'all. Seriously, the Salamence, the Articuno, the Whale Lord, they're all amazing. Now, the Articuno hasn't really come down that much in price. I'm still kind of watching that one personally. $40 seems a little bit high for me on that card. So I've only bought one copy of that Articuno so far because I'm really hell-bent on waiting that one out a little bit longer. But the Whale Lord, shout out to Ryan Babs, the homie who's in our little chat group, who was talking about the Whale Lord finally becoming like a $20-something card. Guys, and I'll get it out real quick, even though I don't really want to move cards from my grading stack. But I do want to talk about this card. Okay, the Whale Lord is absolutely stunning. This card is beautiful. We did pull this card on stream, which was a whole lot of fun and very validating. But also, tons of these are hitting the market, right? This card has become super, super common. hitting the market by the boatload. There are so many of these cards listed, and so much to a point where, you know, will this card age well? Will it ever be a higher value card? I don't know. But if you like this card like I do, and you think that the art is amazing, and you can appreciate all of the colors and the coral reef, and everything about this card is super complimentary. All of the colors, the style, it's incredible. I love Whale Lord. Maybe people don't think Whale Lord is that cool of a Pokemon. I think he's sick, but I was also a huge Generation 3 boob. I really liked playing Sapphire, Ruby, and Emerald. So cards like this really hit home for me. It really, it's exactly what I wanted from a set like this. But I want to talk about the fact that it has this incredible sunset in the background. It's just a very like summery, like it's the perfect time for this card to have been released, because, you know, we're going through spring and now we're going to go into summer, and the weather is just super nice out, and this card just, it expresses all of those vibes to me. Like it just makes me feel like I want to go on a vacation, which we are planning a beach trip, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And one thing I noticed, and I don't know if there's a correlation here, I think I brought it up on the channel before, but the background sunset, I wonder if, like, in the background, you've got these mountains and these trees in the Salamence EX card, and then the Whale Lord has some mountainous terrain in the background, and I wonder if, you know, that's a story being told right here. You know, you've got these mountains, and, you know, they've got the sunset over here and all these little trees. I love the detail in the Salamence EX. I've talked about this card a lot. I made a whole video saying that this is one of my favorite arts for the entire era, almost. I really love this card. It's bringing back to me how much I love Salamence as a Pokemon in general, and I want to go after some of the older Salamence cards as well. But honestly, I love vintage, but this modern Salamence is probably my favorite Salamence ever. I love this card. I cannot wait to get a ton of these graded. The graded 10 is in auction right now for $660. I was going to buy a 10 because I just can't wait to get these graded, but that's probably not going to happen now, because I have so many that I'm going to send in. But yeah, someone just sold this for $700. There's an auction right now for $660. I'll be curious to see if this card goes over that $700 that another seller sold it for. There's not a lot of these graded 10 on the market. The 8 just sold for like $180, which is really great. Okay, if the 8 is selling for $180, grading is $19, then take $20 off the $180, you're at $160. If you're buying this card anywhere from $100 to, I don't know, $120, right? $125, $130 even, which the trending price on eBay right now is $130. Maybe TCG Player is still $118, but still, it leaves you a lot of margin, even if you're paying $19 for grading, which makes this a stupid easy play. One, okay, if you're chasing the money, great, stupid easy play. But two, this card is super unappreciated and undervalued right now. And let's forget the undervalued part, just underrated and unappreciated, right? I honestly don't think this card has any reason to be sub $100, but I've actually been able to pick up several copies now under $100. At first, you know, I got some negative responses by offering like $85, $90, but now I'm actually picking up a couple of these around that price point, and with tax and shipping, most of the time it's coming to close to $100 or like $98, $97, but still, that's an amazing deal. Whether they're centered or gradable or anything, just getting a copy of this card at that price point, in my opinion, is awesome. And it's not just this card, right? Whatever you like in Journey Together, all of the Journey Together singles are dumping. You know, you've got the N Zoroark. That card looks really cool. I'm not a huge Zoroark fan. I'm not huge on, you know, some of these trainers like N or even Lily. I'm not huge on those characters, but I can appreciate the cards. It is what it is. But for me, it pretty much these three cards. I mean, it's the Articuno, the Whale Lord, the Salamence. These are the cards that I think make this set. Really, I haven't talked about the Articuno very much, but the Articuno is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, this card is stunning. Like, everything that I like about Pokemon cards is expressed with these cards, right? You're getting a full body shot of the Pokemon. You get this beautiful scenic background of their environment. Literally, Journey Together is probably the best set of Scarlet and Violet. And I say that knowing that Rivals, we've only seen half of what's to come in Rivals, but I just think there's so much hype and so much pressure on Rivals to perform that the slightest underperformance of that set, people are going to shift back to these older sets. And I think that they're going to come back and realize that these 3 cards were absolutely phenomenal. Now, granted, practice what you preach, Ryan. If you think these cards are amazing, then why don't you go in heavy on them? And I am. I originally said I was getting 10 Salamence cards. Then it became 20. Then it ended up pushing up to 30. Now we are at above 40 copies of this card, guys. I'm telling you that this card is unappreciated right now. I'm buying so many of them. I don't even care if I don't end up selling them immediately. I will probably keep a lot of these copies. And if you don't believe me, as soon as you get multiple 10s, those things are going to be flipped on the market so quick. Guys, I still have like 5 Zapdos EX PSA 10s from 151. I still have 5 or 6 Blastoise EX 151 PSA 10 cards. I have a lot of duplicates. Pikachu from 151 duplicates. Charizard, my 9s. I have like 4 9s of Charizard duplicates. I've still kept them. I have kept a lot of my extra cards that I've graded just because I love these cards and I just don't think right now would be the time to sell them. Even in an up market, I think there's a lot of room for those cards to grow and there's no pressure for me to get rid of them. It would be the same thing with cards like this. I want to see and basically do an experiment how many of these things I can send in and what they're going to grade back on. And granted, it would probably be more strategic if I sent one at a time and do smaller submissions, but we're not doing that. I'm sending it all at once. I want to see what happens when I send 50 Salamence or whatever, 40-something Salamence in, 10 or so Wailord. I think I'm probably going to end up picking up another dozen copies of Wailord. Right now, Wailord has crashed. It is like a $20 card, guys. How is this not worth at least 20 bucks? It's a beautiful card. And again, back to the background, the more I look at this, the more I piece together that these are definitely connected, guys. It has the same hue of the sunset, the same coloring, and right up here, if you look really closely, you see that mountainous terrain in the background with the boat. Okay, and of course the sunset over here. I almost wonder, even with the perspective, if it makes sense, right? So there's the mountainous terrain, and here you've got the mountainous terrain. You can barely make it out on the SIR, but if I shine it a certain way, it casts a nice lighting on some of that mountain terrain there, and the sunset behind it. I don't know. I can't help but feel that the Wailord and the Salamence are ultimately connected. But yeah, I absolutely love this Salamence card. He's so badass. And the colors, the complementary colors, the bright red and the blue with the orange flames and the sunset background. Why are people not talking more about this card? I get it. We're just not huge fans of Salamence, but in general, I think that Journey Together is a great set, and for buying the singles right now is a great time to collect these cards, right? Again, all value aside, all like trying to make plays and flipping at different market prices aside, this card is a great buy. And honestly, I got a couple copies that I don't feel like will probably grade PSA 10. And I can sell those and I'll just set them at a price higher and I'll wait a year if I have to get rid of some of the copies that I just don't feel like are worth sending. But for the most part, a lot of these, even my off-center copies, I plan on sending into PSA just to see what happens with some of the copies that have a really good backside. Now, what I will say is the PSA 10s of these cards could go for way, way more and maintain that value. And here's why I'm going to say that. Because there haven't been a lot of copies to hit the market. We've had so many raw copies of these cards hitting the market right now. And yet we're not really seeing any PSA 10s hit the market. So I think that PSA is going to be really, really tough on these cards, particularly these 3 cards that I've mentioned here today, the Articuno, the Wailord, the Salamence EX. I think that these 3 cards are going to be super hard to grade, and I think PSA is going to be really tough on them. And me personally, I can tell you what I've seen already right now. Every single copy I've gotten, every single one, has had some kind of minute flaw, some kind of insignificant, like a corner that's got a white dot on it, or a lot of them have had dings. I've seen a lot of copies on eBay that have dings. I mean, we know it's no mystery that the English card quality is kind of, it's questionable. But still, I think that PSA is going to take that into consideration, that the card quality wasn't that great. And I'm confident that I'll still get a couple PSA 10s back, because I consider a lot of the cards that I'll be sending in perfect, right? They're very, very minor flaws, but there's a reason it's not, a pristine or a black label. It's a PSA 10, right? It's very subjective. I have plenty of other modern PSA 10 cards that I've gotten in recently that really didn't deserve to get a PSA 10. So I'm confident that I will do well on my next big submission. My last submission has been taking forever. The cards are in research and ID. It's been out for about a month and a half now. I do want to say PSA is taking a really long time, which sucks, because it's kind of like everyone thinks grading is a play, and I'm enjoying it. I'm going to continue grading regardless, because I see the benefits of it, and I know that long-term it's going to work out really, really well, and it's going to make selling easier when the card is graded by a professional company that says, hey, this is mint, right? Whether it's a 9 or 10, this card is mint, right? I want people to be confident in buying from me, and I think grading is a great way to guarantee that. Also, authenticity is another thing with grading. I just had my first absolutely ridiculous buying experience, somebody buying from me, I guess selling experience. Someone last night accused me of selling them fake cards. I sold them vintage jungle and fossil cards. It was an auction. It wasn't even a listing. It was an auction I put up. Anybody could bid whatever they wanted. And I threw in some first edition cards in there too. Guys, I have a great reputation as a seller and on eBay, and I hope in this hobby I have people know me for having a good reputation. I would hope so, but regardless, I strive for the best on my eBay, and I was shocked that somebody accused me of something like that on my eBay. And I want to say one great thing about getting cards graded is that they're graded, they're authenticated. There is no, you can't accuse someone, or even, there in some cases people can reseal slabs, but it's extremely rare. It barely ever happens. But that's another great protection with getting your cards graded by PSA, is the factor that they're authenticated and you don't need to worry about anybody, just being absolutely ridiculous. Now, eBay saw that this account was a new account. I think somebody was trying to scam me or do something suspicious. So eBay actually recommended that I block that buyer. And I was like, I don't really want to block this person. I kind of want to work things out and be as amicable as possible, but at the same time, they really disrespected me and accused me of something that I didn't do, and I can't risk getting bad feedback or someone basically having me lose sales when I've had a great reputation, and I always put my buyers first. And even today, I sold 2 super cheap cards, a $6 card, a $3 card, and I sold a Lickitung, which is again why I'm loving grading. I sold a PSA 9 Lickitung, and I made I think $20 or $25 off that card. I would have never made that much if I sold the card raw. 2, the card didn't even hit a 10. It hit a 9 and it still sold. Now, I did want to keep that copy. I love Lickitung. But anyways, my point is authentication, getting a market price for your graded cards is really refreshing, knowing that at a certain point, they're going to hit that price point and they're going to sell. It's really just a waiting game. Sometimes people say, Ryan, your cards are priced way too high. That's nowhere near market. Maybe I don't want to price them for market, but I am willing to negotiate with you. The people that bought my cards today, I had them priced at twice of what they offered me, right? I accepted half off on their offers because I regularly sell cards and I'm super flexible on that. But and I think a lot of people can relate with this, when you're first listing cards and you're up all night and you're listing stuff, you value your time. So you're not going to list that stuff immediately to get it sold after you've spent all night. At first, you're going to shoot higher, but you're going to come down on it. So guys, if you're ever looking at my eBay, just know I negotiate. I am flexible on pretty much everything. There is not one card that I've been I'm firm on this. I can't go any lower. That's just not realistic. I don't really even care sometimes about making money. Sometimes I'm just trying to move stuff. I'll even take losses on things sometimes. It's rare. I don't do it a whole lot, but it does happen. So just putting that out there. And then lastly, that brings me to another point that me and my friends were talking about. Journey Together is great value right now. I think it's great value right now. I can't believe that people are sleeping on it. Guys, don't sleep on Journey Together. If you like these cards, genuinely, like, now is the time. I'm not sure if you're going to have a better time. I don't know if everyone's just got their head in the sand on this set, but the prices shock me right now, and I am loving it. I am super happy with this. I can't really mess with other aspects of the hobby right now. Vintage is way overpriced right now, which I love seeing because so many people were being like, oh, vintage is old. Nobody cares about vintage. It's a generational thing. Look at vintage. Vintage is going up, guys. It is continuously going up. It is defying all odds, and you were wrong. Those of you that said modern would trump vintage, and I don't even want that to be an argument, right? Because it's not an argument. I love both. But I get so sick and tired of hearing people be like, no, like, the kids today, like, their vintage grails are going to be the modern stuff. Modern has to age. It will be. It will age. It will be a fine wine someday. But right now, you can't discount those WotC hollows that are flying in price and also flying off the shelves. Everybody wants them. Everybody's bidding on them right now. People are learning very quickly. They're adapting way quicker than they did in the COVID boom before. They're seeing that, hey, these modern cards just dumped, right? They just dumped in price. Not totally. They didn't really crash. They retraced, we'll call it that. But the vintage stuff didn't, right? It barely even flinched. It's continuing to rise, and it's unfortunate that I have to say this, because I'm stressed out about it too. But it's kind of a now or never type deal right now. Right now, I'm really trying to finish my vintage goals like ASAP, because I do believe that those cards are being controlled by big money, right? And there's nothing we can do about it, guys. This is the reality. Big money players, I'm not going to say names, but there are vendors, there are vendors out there, there are sellers out there, there are people in the high-end upper echelon of vintage collecting that own, like, I can't even believe some of the posts I've seen on Instagram. There are people that own, like, 6 copies of my Grail cards, right? Like the market is manipulated beyond belief, right? I think that's a big reason why vintage is going up, but it remains still a fact. The vintage will continue rising because those people are onto it now. So, and the problem is they can't really manipulate modern as easily because there's so much of it out there. Until it ages a bit, until, you know, the pops kind of level off, they can't really do much with that. But they can easily manipulate a card where there's only 200 of them in a PSA 10. And, like, I respect it. I idolize it. I envy it. Like, it's amazing to have a collection like that. I see these cards and I'm like, man, will I ever have duplicates of that card? I don't know. But I like vintage, and I would definitely, if I could afford to, buy multiples of that card. And I told my friends, like, I'm never going to list those cards and not hook people up on it in the future if I already own those cards. If I own those cards already, I want to pass that grail down to someone else who will appreciate it. The problem with a lot of these big buyers, these high-end collectors, is that they don't even want to sell you the card, right? They're putting it for twice the market, and then they're not even responding to messages. They don't respond to you. And this isn't just me, guys. This is a lot of my friends. We've started talking about this, how, like, we shouldn't support these sellers because they're not looking out for any of our best interests. All they care about is flexing these cards and asking insane premiums on them with no negotiation, right? No love, no compassion for the collector on the other side, like a disrespect, which is the big thing why I think a lot of these sellers should be boycotted. There's a major amount of disrespect, right? With my buyers, I try to be as nice and open-minded as possible with how they're feeling, and express, like, I understand, like, these cards have gotten really expensive and I want to work with you on it. This is my price. This is what I need to get on it. But a lot of these vintage grail high-end card sellers, they just don't care. It's savage. Yesterday, not calling this person out. It is what it is. We were trying to make a deal, and I couldn't handle the pressure. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, it's getting ridiculous trying to negotiate on some of these cards now because people, it's like you don't even really want to sell it. You have it posted for twice market. You don't really want to sell it unless you can rip someone off as much as possible. Like, it's, again, I'm not going to call out names even though I should, but people are talking about it. People are talking about these sellers and saying, like, maybe we should avoid these guys overall no matter what they have. And let them know, like, even if you have these cards, maybe somebody with a ton of money will buy them from you, but the rest of the community will not support that kind of behavior. Like, where you're buying up everything and then asking twice market. That's a lot of the reason why those vintage cards have gone up. It's not just because vintage is great. I wish I could say the vintage was so much better art-wise than modern, but that's not really it. It's the fact that people can manipulate it so easily. The market is more manipulated than it's ever been, and this is the new reality, guys. You can't even get mad at it. People are moving into the new hustle of Pokemon, and it's about making money more than it's ever been. And, you know, we all want to make a little money on the side while we're collecting. It's how you can sustainably collect, and I get that. But when it just becomes this hobby and its community have become a cash cow for a lot of these higher end collectors, that's wrong. It's messed up. And we're kind of boycotting them behind closed doors and saying, like, yeah, let's just not shop with this person anymore. Don't make them offers. Just avoid dealing with them, because that price is a clown price right there. Again, my prices on my eBay are not my prices, right? They're set there to sit there, send me an offer, negotiate with me. I always negotiate with people. I never expect that I'm going to sell a card for list price. I almost never do. Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. Oh, God, I know I had something else to talk about. Yes, this seller that I was working with. So a card that's been on my radar, right? And this is probably going to make that card shoot up a little bit because now there's going to be more eyes on it. But I think it's worth talking about. I think it is a grail card that I've put off for too long. Some of my favorite Pokemon, pretty much in a nutshell, Rayquaza, Charizard, Salamence is going to start being up there too. But Lugia, right? And I only have... You know, I have the Unlimited Lugia, I have my Aquapolis Lugia, but I don't really have a whole lot of Lugia cards. I used to have the Ancient Origins Lugia before I sold it. That card, I had a beautiful full art Lugia of that card, the Lugia EX from Ancient Origins. That card's phenomenal. I wish I hadn't sold it. But I sold a lot of my full arts when the market just wasn't really doing anything on them. I regret that. I shouldn't have sold those cards. Even though they were 9s, I shouldn't have sold them. But anyways... I was hunting for a first edition Lugia, and not to drag this out too long, and I'm not calling anybody out because I don't do that on this channel. I'm not trying to destroy people's reputations or make them feel shitty. I'm just calling it how it was. I've been looking for a Neo Genesis first edition Lugia. The PSA 10, as many of you know, or if you don't know, the PSA 10 first edition Lugia is extremely valuable. A lot of them had print lines or scratched really easily because a lot of the surface is hollow. But the print lines mainly were a big thing because it's just how they produced a lot of these Neo Genesis generation cards. So Neo Genesis, it pretty much consists of a lot of the Johto region Pokemon. But when they were building those sets, they had a major, particularly with Neo Genesis, they had a major print line issue where you had horizontal and vertical print lines on a lot of the cards. Now, this Lugia was no exception. The Lugia had a ton of print lines on the card, and this card that I was looking at had a print line as well, but it had a gnarly swirl. I really wanted this copy, but I was looking at a lot of the copies on eBay and kind of unhappy with them, and I found a copy privately that had been owned by someone in their childhood collection, and the whole story and all of that really meant a lot to me, so I wanted this card. The problem with new cert cards is that they can be altered. The nice thing about older cert cards is they might have some damage or they might have some edge wear or whatever. They're not perfect, but that brings a little bit of character, and also it's just not realistic that these cards would be cut perfectly every single time. So I'm accepting of an older card that has some flaws, right? It's less suspicious to me than a perfect card that has just been freshly graded. That's a little bit more suspicious to me because even when a card has been in the same booster pack for 20 years, it still can be badly damaged. The corners can be dinged. We see it all the time, particularly with first edition set cards. But anyways, this Lugia is really, really tough to grade because of those print lines. So the PSA 10 is worth anywhere from like 40 to 50,000. I should have probably tried picking up that card when it was a $20,000, $30,000 card. But again, I didn't have that kind of money. My job wasn't doing that well at that time. Now, of course, the bar is screamingly successful and I'm very happy with it. We're repping it shamelessly here, Starlight on 22nd, here in Charlotte, North Carolina. If you ever want to pop in and mention you saw me on YouTube, first round on me. But anyways, now it's doing really well, but it's too late. This hobby has gotten so expensive that even though my business is doing amazing numbers, it's too late, which sucks. But I'm still trying to make it work. So I'm looking at the PSA 9 copies because most of the copies are going to have some kind of print line anyways. But you can get a damn near perfect card. The back of it can be very close, with maybe a white dot here or there, for a huge fraction of the price, right? I think the lowest listing right now is like $60,000. I think that's the lowest price listing right now for the Neo Genesis Lugia first edition. And a PSA 9, the last sold was $4,500, which is, here's the thing. This private seller, I offered them $5,100. That is higher than Z&G's buy it now listing price. Now, it had a really nice swirl, but then they were like, somebody else, we talked all day, and then they were like, well, somebody else is willing to pay $5,180. It's fine. They leveraged my offer for a better offer. That's fine. I would probably do something similar. I understand. I'm not going to be a pouty little bitch about it. But here's the thing. I had talked to them all day. I thought we had built some kind of connection. That doesn't matter anymore to anybody. Like, there's no, me and my close friends in the hobby, we're always going to hook each other up. But there's a lack of that appreciation and just, talking to another collector that really, really values that card. And it wasn't like I lowballed. It wasn't like I gave a crappy offer. I gave a really strong offer off the bat that they had to leverage to get a higher offer from someone else. It's unfortunate. It happens. I don't hate them for it. I would actually do business with them again. They were super, super nice. But at the end of the day, yeah, I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off about it. It hurts. One thing that has me withdraw from the hobby a lot of times is when a deal falls through, I get a little bit depressive. That's a lot of the reason lately why I haven't made as many videos is because I'm a collector. First and foremost, I don't care about the content as much. I don't care about making money as much. I am a collector. I'm trying to collect these cards, and it's so hard to make people understand that fact about me that I could give two shits where the values go in the grand scheme. I am a collector first and foremost now, more than anything. And I've gotten so deep into it that it's gotten to a point where I get withdrawn and slightly depressive, and thank God I have pretty much everything going for me for the most part. I have no reason to complain. I have a beautiful wife, beautiful, healthy kids. I have an incredibly amazing family and support system, a great business. I have nothing to complain about. I shouldn't be. But something just really twists me up inside when I work all day on an offer. I take time out of my day. I'm not, paying attention to my family for 5-10 minutes because I'm trying to negotiate and work out a deal. And that's all just a waste of my time. When someone comes in and offers $80 more than I offer for a card like that, and then boom, it gets swooped out from under me. I know a lot of people can relate on when that happens, when a deal falls through, when someone pays more than you. And he gave me the option to upbid that person basically. But this isn't eBay. This is a private deal. When you make a private deal, know what you want and stand by it. Don't dick someone around. And this is in general. This isn't directed towards anybody, right? The person that we didn't work a deal could be watching this video right now and say, oh man, I knew this was going to be, that was a bad idea to take an offer $80 higher, but I get it. You want to get as much money as you can for your cards. I can relate with that. I can understand that. But even me, there's been times in the past where I took way less on a card because this person really wanted it. and they likely appreciated it more than anybody else would. Like, when people are super persistent about getting a card, I usually know that that's exactly what they want, and I want to try and make it happen for them. But yeah, this just sucked that $80 was the difference, and that it was so much higher above market. So anyways, there's plenty of other copies on the market. I'll probably get a better deal on it. It probably wasn't meant to be, but it's just something that I wanted to talk about. It's something that I experienced that I wanted to share. It's not unique. Deals fall through all the time with people. And it's something that happens, you know? Like, it is what it is. The part that hurts me the most is that I am a collector first and foremost, and I don't just want any copy of this card. I don't just want the cleanest copy of this card, which is usually what I'm going for. I want something about the card that makes it unique. What made this card unique was the fact that it came from someone's childhood collection. You know, what made it unique was the fact that it had this amazing swirl right under Lugia's wing. I haven't been collecting a lot of the older WotC cards unless they were like deemed very rare, like the secret rares or the shinings, or, you know, first edition base. That's been my foundation. Crystals, shinings, first edition base, crystals, shining, first edition base, and gold stars. That's kind of been my foundation for like collecting high rarity cards. But I haven't really collected a lot of the holos, and one thing I want to start doing is pivoting away from a lot of those high-end cards that I've been going after and go after some of the regular holos that I have wanted for such a freaking long time. One of them being the Skyridge Gengar, which is like way out of my price range now. I remember that card was $5,000 for a PSA 10. You know how much it is now? Standard. $15,000 to $17,000. How does anybody these days afford cards like this? Like, I had to scrimp by and scrape as much money as I could together. I know you might think, Orion, well, you have a really good job, right? You're lucky you even have the bar. But I had to really try and stretch my money thin to make my cards happen. And I'm so happy about it. I have no regrets. But now, it's like, am I willing to like basically forego like a fifth or a sixth of my entire salary, my entire pay, all the tips that I've earned through slinging cocktails? Am I willing to give up like basically like, you know, a fifth of my life of the year for one card that's just a regular holo? Albeit it's a Gengar and people love Gengar, but it's the way things are going right now. I think that it's a rich man's game. Pokemon vintage cards are becoming a rich man's game. If you're getting PSA 10, right? It's like, there's no point to even talk about PSA 10 anymore because no one can really afford it, right? Regular PSA 10 holos from Neo sets, right? Blissey was listed for $12,000, right? Neo Blissey holo. Why is it like, I get the Yanma. I think the Yanma is like super low pop. There's like so few of them. You know, in some cases, these cards, it's warranted. They're extremely rare. They're extremely low pop. Nobody has graded them. I get why they're expensive. But other cards, they're just expensive because people have made them expensive, right? And I think that Skyridge Gengar is definitely one of them. I feel like plenty of those have been graded, but because it's Gengar, it's super popular. And Skyridge is one of the best sets ever. I'm just being salty about it right now, but yeah, it's the hobby for the most part. You can say I'm whining about it, but it's become a rich man's game. It's become a rich man's game. And this is also why I'm talking about Journey Together today, because with all the noise and all the expensive cards going for auction right now in record-setting numbers, here you have a set with some really, really affordable cards that you can grade, and you can have PSA 10s of these cards on a budget. That's awesome. That's something to be excited about, guys. Why are people so bummed out about Journey Together right now? You should be excited. These cards are so freaking affordable. Why is it never good enough for people? It's never good enough for people. Everybody's always got something to complain about in this hobby, but I think the real issue we need to worry about right now is the manipulation of the older cards. Because No one's going to be able to afford them soon. It's only going to be millionaires that can afford to buy these cards. I'm telling it straight right now. I don't know how many people are saying this, but it is going to be millionaires that are going to be controlling that market, or people that have been in the hobby way longer than the rest of us. And respect, right? You've been in the hobby longer than me, respect. You graded these cards, you had them before anybody else, respect. But at the same time, you're now not willing to pass these cards down to anybody else, but you have them listed well above market. You're just pulling views in. It's advertising. But you don't even want to sell the card. Why? Why are you doing that to us? You don't even want to sell it. Take it off the market. Just have it in your collection. Stop dangling it like it's a little trophy for everybody to look at and bow down to you on, right? At one point, I had some of my cards listed. On eBay that I really didn't have much plan in selling, but I wanted to see what kind of offers I would get. Since then, all my cards have been taken down off eBay. I had a long talk with a couple of my close friends and kind of explaining, they were going after some of those cards, and they were like, Orion, like, it might seem, weird to say this. I know you're trying to get views for your eBay store and whatnot. And there's ways to do that. There's plenty of ways to do that without having grail cards listed, right? Eye candy. But, when they were telling me how much it hurts when you see a card like that, you already can't afford it. You send in an offer that's like actually close to market, and then they just ghost you, or they respond with something really disrespectful, like, you see my price, why are you lowballing me? And it's like, dude, I'm not lowballing you. I'm offering you fucking market for this card, and you've got it listed for 2x market, and you're not negotiating at all. Like, well, why do you even have an offer up? Why are you doing that if you're not willing to negotiate at all? And so after my friends kind of convinced me that this was kind of, bad etiquette, right? I didn't know any better. I thought this is what people did. But it's not. It's wrong. And you shouldn't list stuff that you have no intentions of selling. I'm sorry. You have Instagram for that, right? You have YouTube for that. You can show off your collection. You can take posts and show all these nice cards you have. But don't put it up for sale if you're not even willing to sell it for actual market prices. It just pisses people off. And then people talk about you behind your back. And it's gossip at its finest. It's more drama. But it's important to talk about this, I feel like. Because right now, I think we are at a place where the ship for a lot of vintage cards has so far sailed that it'll never come back to port. We'll never have a chance to get some of these cards. And it's really, really sad. I can afford to buy a lot of these cards still. I will be able to save money down the road, and probably with my bar. I don't care if I have to pay crazy prices. Eventually, I will secure all the cards that I'm going after. I'm confident in myself, and I believe in manifestation, and I believe that I can manifest. I will own this card someday. One of my top grails that I want to own is a PSA 10 First Edition Charizard, PSA 10 Gold Star Rayquaza. Trying to see. Those are top for me. And honestly, a Neo Genesis Lugia would be PSA 10. That would be an absolute grail too. But for now, I'm happy with what I have. I don't take it for granted. But I do plan that I will eventually manifest those cards. But I feel like the vast majority of people are going to have a really hard time trying to justify buying cards like that, and I don't blame them. These prices are out of hand, and most of these cards are worth someone's half of their salary or all of their salary out there. And that's the crazy part, is even then they might not accept an offer. You might not have a chance to get it because they're manipulating these cards and then they're not even willing to sell them. So yeah, it's a big problem. It's a big problem, guys. But anyways, I'm bummed out about the Neo Genesis Lugia, but that's probably going to be one of the next cards on my list. I did secure something else. I have just now completed one of my biggest collection goals. I probably should have said that in the beginning of the video, but for those of you that are OGs that watch my stuff till the end, thank you. We have something really big, really great coming in. Finally, I can say that I've completed one single major goal in this hobby. I have a lot of goals stretched out that I'm spread thin on, and I finally completed one major goal with a card coming from Australia that I'm super excited to talk about. I've been trying to go out after this card for a while, and I had a really good experience privately with this person. I gave him a shout out on Instagram. I'm going to give him a shout out here on YouTube too. But they were no hassle, no bullshit, straight to the point, knew what they wanted. I countered, they countered back. We met in the middle. We made a deal. It was like that. Like a deal was made in like 5 minutes. That's how it should be. You should know what you want, know what you're willing to negotiate on, and just be straight up. Be like, this is what I need to make this worth my while. I need to make a little bit of money on this card. This is what I need. And I'll be like, all right, this is what I need to make it worth my while. Can we meet in the middle on this and make this happen? And you know what that person did? Now, this was a unique situation where they knew my YouTube. They've watched my videos before. They knew how passionate I was about these cards and about my collection. And granted, this isn't like a status thing like, oh, look where I am in the hobby. You need to hook me up because I'm Orion. No, this is about appreciating a card more than the average person and knowing that it's not just going to be flipped and plundered, right? I think that's something that I can pride myself on, that a lot of stuff that comes in my collection, I have a really fucking hard time letting it go. And with any investment, don't get emotional, don't get super attached to it. But that's the problem, is it's become too much about investments. It's become too much about the money. Too much. Okay? I remember Z&G made a video a while back where he was like, these cards aren't going for enough. You know, they're worth even more. They're not going for enough. And it was more of like a sarcastic joke thing, but like it triggered me a little bit. I almost made a video and uploaded a video talking about how, you know, this was like a ridiculous video to make because even as a joke, it points to light that like you're joking about it, but you're also doing record-setting auctions, selling these cards for all-time highs every single week, and it's hurting a lot of people. A lot of people got burned in the last couple of weeks, last couple months in doing auctions and in the market. So it's like, you can joke about these cards are going to the moon, but it's just getting wild. It's getting crazy. Anyways, They worked with me, this other seller, for a grail card that I've been going after. I wanted this card in a PSA 10, but again, the market's so crazy and so irrational that I'm not willing to justify paying that kind of money for a PSA 10 of this card. I could afford it, but I'm not willing to do it. And it's not one of my favorite Pokemon, so I really can't justify that. But I did need it to kind of complete a subset of cards. You guys know I have a couple, I just talked about them in this video, a couple different subsets that I'm really set on. And I'm sorry this video is so long, but I haven't made a video in a minute. I need to get a lot of stuff off my chest and express how I'm feeling, and hopefully people can relate with that and it's not like too drony or too ranty. But this person knew that I was a collector first and foremost, and they hooked me up. They hooked me up on the card. They didn't hook me up like crazy. I basically was willing to pay market, in my opinion, or what I deemed it valued at in the current market. And I paid still a lot more than I wanted to pay. But we were able to be firm, set a price, and commit to it. And that's really hard to do these days. There's only one time that I feel like I've really let someone down in that respect, and I'm going to talk about that. I sold a BGS Rayquaza not long ago. There was someone that I had talked about for days about that card, and they wanted to pay me $10,000 for the card, right? I told them I really wanted to make a deal, but I also told them that I wanted to see if the card could be cross-graded. I told them that I would let them know what happened after the card was cross-graded. The card did not cross. My BGS Ray didn't cross to a PSA 9. Maybe if I cracked it, it would. And someone else came along and bought the card for $12,500. It's cutthroat. And in that moment, granted, it wasn't in the same day and I didn't leverage that offer, right? I didn't pit them against each other or try and get them to upbid each other. I didn't even tell what I had been offered to the person who offered me. I just told him, like, I've had to now sit on this card for a good bit longer than I had planned. And when I got the card back, I didn't really even have time to reach out to the previous buyer. Otherwise, I would. He was kind of the person that had first dibs on the card. But then someone swooped in, bought the card for $12,500, and that's just how it went. But I don't feel great about that. I don't feel great about how I could have helped someone out who really wanted to collect this card and who wanted it in its current state, right? It went to someone else who they really love the card. They're really happy about it. I'm happy that it worked out. But their first instinct was to crack the card and try and send it to a different grading company. And I just kind of thought, like, I don't know, the card could have went to somebody that maybe would have appreciated it more. And while people might say that that doesn't matter, it does. It does. You don't want to perpetuate the vicious cycle of people buying stuff purely to flip it or cross-grade it or make more money off of it. You want that card to go to someone that ultimately is going to cherish it and appreciate it and have it in their collection a long time. Me and my friends, none of us want to sell each other cards and then see them flip it immediately. We want to sell them a card that they know that it's going to be in their collection for a long time, especially if we're going to do a deal on it. At the end of the day, once someone buys a card, it's their property. They do with it what they want. And I was really stoked to make that sale. It helped my family out a lot. And I really needed that money. That's going to help us with our house down payment, with our future house down payment. But yeah, I wanted to bring that up because I'm not perfect and I'm not above it either. That was probably one of my less ethical things that I did, where I could have hooked someone up on that card and instead I dragged it out and held out for more. Now, granted, I had everybody telling me that that $10,000 was not enough for that card, even though for me, I was like, dude, $10,000 is a lot of money. Like, it's crazy how people look at the market and are like, the market's up here. Why would I ever sell here? It's like, I'm going to sell here because it's still a load of money that not many people have to throw at one single card, right? I was sitting on that BGS Rayquaza for like 6 months, maybe a year, before someone really made a serious offer on it. I'm glad everything worked out. But, if I didn't have people in my head telling me like, I think you're making a mistake selling for only $10,000, I wouldn't have sold it for 12.5 and held out a little bit longer. Really, I just got lucky because I got the card back from PSA and then it was back on eBay. And then the market was at an all-time peak, right? Everybody was asking $18,000, $20,000 for Rayquaza Gold Star 9. And here mine was, and it sold for 12 grand, 12.5. So in a lot of ways, I gave that person a ridiculously good deal still. So it's something I can feel a little bit good about, but I still just don't feel great that someone else was there first and really wanted the card, albeit they offered me a big chunk less. It's not always about the money, and I want to say that I feel bad about that, and I wish that I could have worked out a sale with that buyer. And I'm probably going to reach out to them today and just check in on them and say, hey man, I thought a lot about that deal that we could have made, and I wanted to let you know that I wish I would have sold that card to you because I know that you probably would have appreciated it more. And we were negotiating, right? You have to take that into account. When people are spending a lot of time to negotiate a deal with you, you kind of have to take that into consideration. People's time is money, right? And it goes both ways. The seller has to negotiate and they're taking time out of their day too. So I don't know, man. Just like making deals and negotiating, and you don't want to let people down, and you want to be ethical and you want to be moral about it. And I'm not on any ethical, moral high horse. I've made plenty of blunders in this hobby that I probably feel bad about or wish I could go back on, but I am learning and I'm willing to admit that I have made mistakes in the past, and no one's holding me to that, right? I feel like it's the right thing to talk about it, that the more you're in this hobby, the more you realize, like, if you're not hooking it up for people and you're not having a good reputation that is like trying to provide quality service, make people feel appreciated, make people feel like they matter, and make deals happen. Why do you have cards listed if you're not willing to make deals happen? That's the whole point of being a seller. Making deals happen. Anyways, guys, I'm going to let you guys go. This video went way, way longer than I had ever anticipated, and I love that and hate that for you guys at the same time. Like, I anticipated just talking about Journey Together as being an underrated set and beautiful arts, and why does nobody care about this set right now? I wanted to just make that like a 10-minute, 15-minute thing. But I'm sorry, guys. I dragged it out. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you listen on your way home from work or while you're at the gym working out, whatever, because it was super ranty. Anyways, peace out, guys. Let me know if there's any grail cards that you're looking at right now. Let me know if you've made deals recently where things fell through and it really hurt you, or you felt wronged. Or let me know if a deal went through and someone really hooked you up because they knew you in the community and you formed that bond, that relationship, or you had done deals with them in the past. That's another thing. When you burn a bridge and don't follow through with the deal, you ultimately are setting a precedent that that person is never going to want to deal with you again. And that's the thing that I regret about the person that originally offered me for my BGS Rayquaza. That could have been a long-time relationship where we did tons of deals. And I shot myself in the foot, right? He didn't tell me that. He didn't like threaten me. He didn't like say anything. He was a super nice guy. But I feel guilty about that. I feel like I could have done better in that situation. Anyways, I love you guys. I hope you guys have an awesome day. Let's try and keep it real as possible in this hobby. There's way too much other bullshit going on. Just be good to each other. And don't forget that this hobby still has an amazing community of people. We're still awesome, right? It's just right now there's so much scalping and market manipulation and even down to distribution itself with MJ Holdings and Pokemon and trying to use a subsidiary company selling overpriced stuff through Walmart. Like, there's all kinds of shady stuff going on right now. And people complaining about vendors offering, percentages when, like, everybody has to make money in this. Like, yeah, there's way too high expectations. And I also want to point out, when I would have sold all of my sealed collection for 92% and I wanted 95%, maybe I was in the wrong there. I'll admit that. Because, now I think about it, and that was a double standard. Like, I wanted full market in a booming market, but I almost had that. And I was greedy, and I turned it down. I do think in the coming years, I'm going to be super happy I didn't take that offer. Because I do think that it's going to go from being worth 30 grand to being worth 40, 50, 60, whatever. And I sat on that stuff for a long time. All of the opportunities that I lost where I wasn't able to buy those vintage grail cards, all of that happened, sorry for making the camera shake, because I was buying sealed stuff. So I want you guys to keep this in mind. Building up your sealed empire means that you're not going to be able to collect the singles you like. And some of us are built different. Some of us really want a lot of sealed stuff. And I'm not that person. I don't find that fulfilling at all. I need the slabs. I need the singles. That's what I'm into collecting now. But everybody has their own thing. And, do you. Do whatever makes you happy. I think everybody is awesome in their own way with collecting in this hobby. And, yeah, this is a cool hobby to be in because there's so many different avenues and ways you can collect. Anyways, this is the longest video ever. Peace out, guys. I'll see you on the stream on Wednesday. Maybe we'll crack open a booster box of Journey together. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll do a discussion. We'll probably do a discussion. But I'll see you guys Wednesday night. I don't have work, so I'm super excited for that stream. Peace.